Hi folks, it's Action Hero and I am back for another video at long last. It's been a really long time. I'm sure it's been at least 6 months. Sorry about that, but I am back now to talk about one of Todd McFarlane's latest offerings in his DC Multiverse line. And this offering happens to be a Green Lantern wave, which is super exciting. For those of you who watch the other videos on my channel, you know that the vast majority of the stuff I put out is Green Lantern. And I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. I collect tons and tons of Green Lantern action figures, and that's really my passion. I especially love Hal Jordan, but really the whole Green Lantern universe really appeals to me. And I wanted to just talk about my opinions, my views on the latest Green Lantern wave from DC Multiverse. So let me just get this going and we will be off and running. So this is the first figure in the wave. And let me just move this. This is the first figure in the wave, which is Black Lantern Batman. You can see down in that lower right-hand corner of the box, it's figure number 1. They are numbered. And just, heads up, you may or may not know this, but 3 out of the 4 figures in the wave are Black Lanterns. And it's for me, it's like I would really like to see figures other than Black Lanterns. Just is my personal preference to see other Green Lantern villains and other Green Lanterns and other color lanterns other than black. Blackest Night for the most part was just like a 1-year event and didn't extend much beyond that. So, but I'm still very happy to get any Green Lantern related figures I can get. And let me just say this Black Lantern Batman looks really, really good. I'm definitely going to pick him up because I am eager to add Black Lanterns to my shelf, even if I would prefer to see some other figures first. I am happy that we're at least getting Green Lantern related characters. And if the reason why I have the picture on the right-hand side is because I like to compare the action figure to the comic book appearances. I do this with almost every single figure I buy because comic book accuracy for me is almost like number 1, even before articulation. I mean, the figure should look good, but comic book accuracy is like almost number 1 or number 2 after like aesthetic appeal. And I think this figure is very aesthetically pleasing. And additionally, I applaud Todd because he's very, very comic book accurate, extremely comic book accurate. I really have no complaints whatsoever. The head sculpt looks really gruesome and accurate. I really, really appreciate what Todd has done here. And you will see that he also comes with 2 arms to a collect-to-build figure, that being Atrocitus, which is really exciting. Atrocitus is one of my favorite villains of all time, definitely one of my favorite Green Lantern villains. So I'm happy to see that he's getting a Build-A-Figure. But we'll talk more about Atrocitus at the end of the video after we've talked about all the individual releases. So then the second figure here is Deathstorm, or Black Lantern Firestorm. I always called him Black Lantern Firestorm until I saw this figure in which he was called Deathstorm. There's actually 2 Deathstorms. One of the Deathstorms is essentially Black Lantern Firestorm. The other one is Firestorm from Earth 3, basically the evil version of Firestorm, who was in the Crime Syndicate for a while in the New 52. Anyway, but this is not that Deathstorm. This is the Black Lantern Firestorm. And I think he looks really nice. Again, probably would not have been my first choice, but I am looking forward to building up my Black Lantern collection since I don't have very many Black Lantern action figures. I probably have 4 or 5. So I am looking forward to building that up with what Todd offers. I mean, just looking at this figure, he looks really, really nice. Very aesthetically pleasing. I do have one gripe, which is that if you compare him to the image on the right, you will see that there are some details that they miss, particularly with the paint. I don't know that they really miss very many sculpted details, but they miss some details with the paint. So you can see that his upper sleeves should actually be a gray color, as well as his hands should be a grayer color. Sometimes this figure is admittedly colored differently depending on which comic you look at, but um, there are some details like the sleeves that are always gray. Sometimes like the bracers are gray and the hands are black and vice versa. But either way, this guy is definitely missing some paint that I think I'll probably paint in. And also, I'm surprised they went with that black for the fire on his head rather than sort of a light blue, such as that around his emblem, because in the comic books, his hair is like, or I shouldn't say his hair, his fire hair is always blue, always that sort of glowing blue. And so that's sort of unfortunate, but I still really do like this figure. I think he looks very, very nice, and I'm gonna pick him up. Fun fact, he comes with a power battery, which is awesome. And I'm really excited about that, particularly since neither Todd McFarlane's Hal Jordan or John Stewart came with power batteries, and that was really disappointing. So it's great to see that this guy does come with one. And to sort of dispel some of the rumors, that is not a Black Lantern power battery. It is a White Lantern power battery. Black Lanterns do not use power batteries. They instead use instead they just eat hearts, which is really creepy, and they feed off basically the emotions of other people. They feed off the emotions of the color spectrum. So it is actually a White Lantern power battery, which in the comics, apparently, I didn't know this before, but I had to read up on it, or I had to ask somebody about it. And for a while, Deathstorm carried a White Lantern power battery, which is interesting. I didn't know that, but okay. I mean, not for his own purpose, but for some other reason. I'm not sure why. And so it's really cool that he comes with that. Yeah. So, and then of course he comes with the head and the sort of shoulders of Atrocitus. Okay, and then we come to, in my opinion, the best figure of the entire wave. This is the highlight for me, no doubt about it. I love Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. He's probably my fourth favorite Lantern, which doesn't sound like he's that high on the list, but because there's 3,600 lanterns, sometimes 7,200 lanterns, depending on how many there are in each sector. 4 is pretty high, right? I mean, for me, it goes like Hal is number 1. Absolutely, nobody beats Hal. And then, I mean, he's the greatest Green Lantern of all time. I mean, it's just, that's what's said by Green Lanterns themselves. And then for me, Guy Gardner, then Simon Baz, and then Kyle. I really like Kyle Rayner as a character a lot, and Todd has just knocked it out of the park here. I mean, just absolutely knocked it out of the park with this character. I have no complaints whatsoever about the figure itself, none. And that's saying something. I mean, I very rarely will look at a figure and have 0 complaints. Maybe when I get him in hand, I'll have a complaint, but as of now, I absolutely do not. And the reason for that is that he's so comic book accurate. I mean, you just compare the image on the right to the figure, and you'll see that very plainly. I mean, maybe the color of the green is a little off, but I don't really care about that. The lines and the paint is exactly where it should be. Now you compare that to the John Stewart and the Hal Jordan that Todd McFarlane put out, and I mean, there's just no comparison. I mean, the Hal Jordan and the John Stewart both had excessive piping, line work that was never on, that never appeared in the comic books. Todd McFarlane just invented that line work because he thought it would look cool. I really hate it when people do that. I think, keep it simple. I think characters look better that way, and I also like comic book accuracy. I appreciate comic book accuracy. So I'm really happy to see this with this figure. He comes with a construct sword, which looks really nice. It is what it is. It's a construct sword. And then a lantern, which again is really good to see, considering Hal Jordan and John Stewart did not come with power batteries. The one thing about the lantern that I will complain about is that it is translucent. And I'm not really sure why that is, since the power batteries are not translucent in the comic books. The only thing I can think of, and I think this is a likelihood, is that Todd was trying to evoke like the sort of the glowing effect that the power batteries take on when a lantern is charging with them. So I think that's what he was going for, but I would have much rather had them like paint the lantern a solid green and then just have the center be translucent, or just have the center be a lighter green, as is normally done. So that would be the one thing about the accessories that I'm not wild about. But the figure itself is really, really great. And then finally, we have the last figure in the wave, is probably my least favorite figure. Unfortunately, I'm kind of disappointed with this guy for a couple of reasons. One being, I personally just don't really like the head sculpt. And I should have probably found a clearer picture than the one on the right, since you can't really see his head very well. But it is what it is. And I'm just not so wild about his head sculpt. It just looks a little weird to me. I don't know. I mean, he's supposed to look creepy, and he does look creepy, but something just looks a little off. But other than that, I mean, they really, the detail is just pretty much spot on with this figure. I mean, they really did a great job capturing the comic book detail. There's very, very few inaccuracies when you compare to the picture on the right. So I'm very happy about that. And I'm definitely going to pick this guy up, if only, to add to my Black Lantern collection, and because I want to build Atrocitus. In promo pictures of this guy, he doesn't have a Black Lantern ring on his finger, which is a little unfortunate. I'm really not sure why that is, but it's definitely an oversight on Todd's part, if indeed he is missing one. It's a little hard to tell in this picture, but my guess is he probably is missing one, since he doesn't have one in the promo pictures. Okay, so then we make it to the final figure in the wave, which is Atrocitus. And this is, of course, the build the figure, so you can't get him as a standalone. You do have to build him. And I think overall he looks very good. I think he looks menacing. I think he's instantly recognizable as Atrocitus. One downside, and for me, it's actually a very large downside, as I think you're probably beginning to pick up, is that he is not very comic book accurate. I mean, you can easily tell he's Atrocitus, no doubt about it. But when you compare it to the picture on the right, you can see Todd has added a lot of line work on the boots, on the shoulder pads, and on the gauntlets that is not present in the comic books. And so that's a little disappointing. I wish Todd had gone with a more comic book accurate look. And you can also see, like, above his chest emblem, there's like some black that's not in the comics, which I don't know why Todd chose to do that. Sometimes Todd likes to just do his own thing, and it's like, save that for like your Todd McFarlane designed figures. Like, you have, like, Todd McFarlane does make, like, Todd McFarlane designed Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. He's done that. He did that with Wonder Woman. He did that with Batman, with like the pirate Batman figure that he released. So he has opportunities to do that. I would rather he reserve this, extra line work piping for those figures, which are admittedly cool figures, and not put them here, right? I'm not really sure why he does that. So that's kind of unfortunate. The one other thing is scale. And I'm a little worried that this figure is going to be too big. If you look at these legs in comparison to Superman, yeah, it looks like he's going to be way too big. But if we really want to know, we can look at this picture, which it's unclear as to like how scaled this is. Like, is this really the true size of each and every figure? Have they just like cropped people in? I mean, it looks cropped essentially from their individual promo images. So you can't really tell exactly what the scale is, but you can get a pretty good idea. So Atrocitus is a little big. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not like he's like 2 times as big as he's supposed to be. And Atrocitus is bigger than most characters, but he's still a little too big, and that's slightly unfortunate. If you look at the DC Universe Classics or the DC Universe Direct Atrocitus, which I think the DC Direct Atrocitus is the best Atrocitus to ever have been made, but if you look at those figures, they're essentially the size of a regular figure. They're a little beefier, but they're not really much taller or much bigger than most figures, which the DC Direct and DC Universe Classics ones are probably a little small, but this guy is just too big. And by the way, Todd does have a record of making his figures too big. Generally, like if you look at Swamp Thing, he was too big. And I'm sure there was one other example that I can't remember right now, but Swamp Thing was a little too big, or actually quite a bit too big. So anyway, but overall, I'm really excited about this wave, excited to add these figures to my Black Lantern collection, and super excited for Kyle Rayner. And I'm definitely going to collect the Atrocitus. He looks enough like Atrocitus that, and it looks good. So I can't complain too much. But yeah, thank you. Feel free to leave comments. I will try to answer every single comment, reply. Also, please subscribe if you haven't. And yeah, like and all that good stuff. So thank you guys, and I'll try to be back with another video shortly.